I've had this build in my back pocket for months and have absolutely no idea why I never made a dedicated video for it because it is off the walls strong. So I plan to remedy that transgression right here and right now. You're basically an invincible, permanent overshielded Titan that is throwing grenades and shield tosses literally non-stop to annihilate everything in your path. This build will have you solo flawlessing dungeons with ease and getting daily invites from friends and clannies begging you to join them for raids, Grandmaster Nightfalls, and just about everything else. We'll start by going over the build itself, the aspects, fragments, mods, and so on. After that, I want to show you exactly how to put it to use by showcasing the ability rotations, combos, and playstyles you need to master to become a Void Titan god. We'll then conclude with the final step in the process to make you invincible and, of course, ultra fashionable, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Raid Shadow Legends, the hit mobile hero collection RPG played by over 80 million players across the world. Raid's got nearly 700 champions, a handful of which are from the recently added faction called the Sylvan Watchers. This faction basically has it all, with forest elves, scary looking tree spirits, living rock monsters, and so much more. My favorite one is Elva Autumnborn because her design is just incredible. Raid is also celebrating the new year and its 4th anniversary with the Forge Pass and 4th Anniversary Titan event, which lasts for several weeks and will have you earning anniversary points by competing in special theme events. It's not just the length of the event that's titanic either. There are some truly amazing rewards up for grabs for taking part in this event, so don't miss out. And if that's not enough, Raid have released a new champion based on the MMA and pro wrestling legend Ronda Rousey, and you can get her for free. Just log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and February 20th, and Ronda's yours. Another thing you don't want to miss out on is the unique bonuses worth $35 that you can obtain right now when you begin your Raid journey by clicking my link in the description or by scanning my QR code here on screen. We're talking a free epic champion, Jotun, 100,000 silver, 50 gems, and 2 epic skill tomes. All this treasure will be waiting for you here for 30 days for new players only, all just for getting started with the link in the description or QR code on screen right now. Thank you so much to Raid for sponsoring this video. Now let's talk about Void Titans. This build begins with the Heart of Inmost Light exotic chest piece, which upon using an ability empowers the other two. Empowered abilities have faster regeneration and bonus effects. Specifically, melees and grenades deal more damage, and barricades have more hit points. The enhanced ability regeneration from this exotic is one of the many things that will allow us to spam our abilities off cooldown, with the enhanced effects boosting our offensive and defensive capabilities significantly. Our first aspect of this build is Bastion, which generates a 45 HP overshield for you and your allies on class ability cast for 10 seconds. Additionally, while behind this enhanced barricade, you regenerate 10 overshield per second and refresh your overshield buff timer. A huge boon of overshields is that they not only overload your HP bar, but also grant 50% damage resistance while active. Our other aspect is Offensive Bulwark, which grants us 400% increased base grenade regeneration rate, 100% increased melee damage, and increased melee lunge range while you have an overshield or are inside a Ward of Dawn. Additionally, unpowered melee hits count as powered melee hits, the importance of which you'll understand when we talk about our mods in a second. And if that wasn't enough, melee kills will also refresh 6 seconds of your overshield duration up to 20 seconds. With the 3 fragment slots granted to us by these aspects, we have a lot of choices based on which activity we are doing. The one thing each fragment set shares, however, is that all 4 will rock Undermining for a weaken debuff from our grenades. For more casual activities and maximum carnage, Exchange and Expulsion do nicely for grenade refund on powered melee kills and Void Explosions on ability kills. If you're looking to venture into solo flawless dungeons or raids, you'll want to instead consider Exchange and Leeching for grenade refund and health regeneration on powered melee kills. If GMs are more your speed and you're rocking a Void weapon with Harmonic Siphon on the helmet for Orbs of Power on weapon multi-kills, you can run Starvation for Devour on orb pickup and Persistence to extend the time of your Devour buff. And finally, if you want to keep it simple with a mod setup that is rock solid for any activity in the game, Provision and Remnants are amazing for a longer lasting weakening grenade, and melee energy refund from grenade damage. This final setup will be the one provided in the Destiny Item Manager link we will talk about in a second. But first we need to talk about the rest of our abilities and our armor mod configuration, along with which elemental affinity each armor piece should be and what piece each armor mod slots into. The Bastion aspect locks our barricade cooldown to 82 seconds at tier 3 resilience, regardless of whether we select Towering or Rally Barricade. So we might as well take Towering for its stronger defensive power, since we wouldn't get a cooldown bonus from Rally anyway. Shield Throw is our best friend for ranged damage and overshield generation, since it grants 15 overshield per hit and ricochets up to 3 times per throw. This of course also procs our offensive Bulwark aspect for increased grenade regeneration and melee damage as well. All of this grenade ability generation will feed into our weakening Vortex grenade, which will be constantly debuffing and severely damaging enemies thanks to the huge buffs it will be receiving from the empowerment of Heart of Inmost Light. And finally, Ward of Dawn is our emergency button to automatically save ourselves in case we bite off more than we can chew, or our ticket to go absolutely crazy on offense with Weapons of Light empowerments and indestructible cover. On the stats side of things, we want to look to max out our resilience first, while sharing the love in the bottom half of the stat bracket between discipline and strength for second and third. As for mods, we want to focus on a setup that will further encourage our ability regeneration. Therefore, it makes perfect sense to lean into an Elemental Well build for 10% energy refund to all abilities when picking up a Void Elemental Well. We'll begin with Reaping Wellmaker on our Void Boots for Void Elemental Well generation on Weapon Final Blows after class ability cast. Next, we'll want Melee Wellmaker on our class item for Void Wells on Shield Throw Final Blows, and uncharged melee kills while overshielded thanks to the effects of Offensive Bulwark. Elemental Ordnance on our helmet is pick number 3 for Void Elemental Well generation on grenade kills, allowing us to generate Elemental Wells for ability refund with all 3 of our abilities. We can also add an additional 10% class ability refund for every Void Well picked up with Well of Utility on a Void chest piece. And with our final combat mod, we'll want Bountiful Wells on a pair of Solar Gloves to double all of our well creation instances from Elemental Ordnance and Reaping and Melee Wellmaker. You'll also want to rock Impact Induction on your gloves for a 20% grenade energy refund when dealing melee damage every 7 seconds, and 2 copies of Utility Kickstart on your Stasis class item for a 25% refund to your class ability on cast. And finally, if you're rocking Void Weapons, Harmonic Siphon works wonders on the helmet as well. This mod setup leaves room for a major stat mod on all 5 pieces, finder mods on the helmet, champion mods on the gloves, resistances and reserves on the chest, and a scavenger mod on the boots. And you didn't think I would make you equip all of that manually, did you? As usual, there is a Destiny Item Manager link down in the description that you can use to automatically copy all of the aspects, fragments, abilities, and mods directly to your Guardian with just a single click. 2 more things you can do with a single click is like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content. Totally up to you. But another good reason to subscribe is because that final step to mastering this setup that I was talking about in the intro of the video is going to be a full cinematic documentary style playbook guide video for this build that will leave absolutely no stone unturned. These types of videos aim to give you every piece of knowledge, information, and advantage to become legend. So if that sounds up your alley, subscribing will guarantee that you don't miss it. Now, although you know exactly what the build is, understanding how to put it to use is just as important. There are 6 main things I want to showcase that you need to incorporate into your playstyle to make this build as effective as possible. The first item is our Heart of Inmost Light ability rotation. Obviously, activating one ability will empower the other 2, stacking up to 2 times, meaning that your third used ability, the last one that you use, is always going to be the most empowered one. Typically, if you're going for damage, you're always going to want that third ability to be your grenade, since an empowered grenade is always going to do the most damage, with the second most important one probably being your melee ability. I would imagine that most players in a PvE context don't care that much about empowered barricade, aka a higher hit point threshold barricade, So typically your barricade is always going to be the ability that you use first. Now, with that all being said, if you're not too concerned about your damage and you're more so focused primarily on ad clear, then you actually pretty much want to spam your grenade whenever it's on cooldown, since of course we have about a million different ways to get our grenade back. Our other two abilities, and our melee ability and our class ability, both give us overshield, which triggers offensive bulwark for 400% increased grenade regeneration. And we have elemental well generation with our grenade, and we have elemental well generation with our melee ability and our class ability. And on top of all of that, we have impact induction for a 20% grenade refund whenever we melee an enemy every 7 seconds. So you pretty much have a million and one different ways to recharge your grenade, meaning that you pretty much want to spam it on cooldown because there's really never going to be a situation where you don't have it up, along with neither of your other abilities being up. Now, of course, an integral part to this build is maintaining 100% uptime on your overshield. We have 3 different abilities that can give us overshield and 5 different ways to either start or increase the duration of that overshield. Not only to maintain 400% increased grenade cooldown at all times, but just for general survivability as well. Obviously, having overshield means you're tankier because you have more hit points, but also because you have an intrinsic 50% additional damage resistance while under the effects of avoid overshield, in addition to your already existing 40% damage resistance from tier 10 resilience, assuming that you are running that. Of course, the 5 different ways that we can make sure that we always have our overshield up are placing our barricade, standing behind our barricade for constant regeneration of it, meleeing an enemy while overshielded with offensive bulwark to increase the duration of our void overshield, our shield toss for a ranged option to get overshield, and then finally, of course, our ward of dawn. The next big tip is to make sure that you are always doing your best to get at least 1 weapon final blow between class ability activations to, of course, make maximum use out of Reaping Wellmaker and thus have as much elemental well generation as you can for maximum ability uptime. With how often your abilities are up in this build, it's going to feel really tempting to pretty much only kill enemies with abilities, and it can be very easy to get lost in the moment and go crazy with your abilities and only throw grenades and melees and punches, but making sure that you get 1 weapon kill in between all of your ability activations, or specifically your shield activations, is going to make sure that you just never find yourself in a position where you're lacking ability energy, and can make sure that you always have at least 1 ability cooldown available, either for offensive or defensive purposes. Another big tip that is actually not mentioned anywhere in the entire game, as far as I can tell, is that your shield actually disorients enemies. It blinds them, so they non-boss enemies specifically, I apologize. So you can actually use your shield as a way to completely take certain enemies out of the fight. And not only that, you can use your regular melee ability to punch the enemies through the shield, since obviously your guns aren't going to work quite as well in that situation. And the reason this feels really, really nice is because obviously if you activate your shield right in front of an enemy, that's of course going to give you overshield, which once paired with offensive bulwark turns your unpowered melees into powered melees, which if you kill an enemy with a powered melee, even if it's not technically the empowered melee ability, you still generate an elemental well, and since we have bountiful wells on, generate 2 elemental wells, which means that we're still just getting a ton of ability energy regeneration. Now, those are the 6 core tips to using this build to close to maximum effectiveness, but there is of course so much more to learn, and I look forward to teaching you all of that and more in the playbook version of this guide that I hope to release in about 3 to 5 weeks. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. And before I let you go, I did promise you that I would make you ultra fashionable with this guide video, so here is the fashion that I am running on this particular setup. Unfortunately, the Honors of the Nine shader has not been available in the game since year 1 of Destiny 2 from Honors of the Nine, but if you don't have Honors of the Nine, you can obtain the Bitter Pearl shader from the Vault of Glass, which is about as close of a substitute as you're going to get to that monochromatic white look. I hope you enjoyed this video and subsequently this build. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.